Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice is one of my favorite games of the year. It's a beautifully crafted tale about the cost of loyalty. A purposeful meditation on that is a lot of blood. Why is there so much blood in him? Why did it have so much blood? Sekiro shook up the From Software action RPG formula in some pretty big ways, and one of those ways was its presentation of blood. There was a lot of it, and it shoots out in noisy, sustained jets like this. Ow. And this is a choice they made specifically for Sekiro. Blood in the Dark Souls games splashes out in wet bursts. Bloodborne's blood flies out in heavy curtains that coat your character in beast fluid. The game's visceral attacks do dump out an obscene amount of that delicious marinara, but this looks like a bucket of chum chucked through a screen door, not a sustained pressurized fire hose. It's a really specific flavor of bloodletting that we don't get to see all that often in a medium that's known for getting really gory. The way that a game uses blood can tell us about the sort of experience that the devs are trying to create for us. In video games that are all about hitting and getting hit, it's a communication tool. There can be a lot going on a screen with finite space and pixels to tell the story. So how can you let a player know that a hit landed? With a big ol' splash of that tasty red gravy that we all need inside of us. I'm talking about blood. In Left 4 Dead 2, they created a distance-based gore scaling system to keep things readable. So if you shoot a zombie here, there's gonna be some blood, but if you shoot a zombie over there, it's way fucking bigger. But Sekiro's blood is different. You don't get these big splashes of blood when you land individual hits. Instead, hit confirms come from flying sparks, flinching enemies, and sound effects. The game has a ton of blood, but it's using it in a different way. And this has to do with the kind of story Sekiro's trying to tell, and the stuff that inspired it. Japan's Chunbara, or sword fighting films, revisit, reimagine, and reinterpret their country's history with pulpy stories of stoic heroes and bloody confrontations. Like America's westerns, these movies got cranked out by the hundreds through the 50s and 70s, but just one of those movies would pioneer an effect that would change the face of silver screen gore forever. And that movie was Akira Kurosawa's Sanjuro. In the film's climactic duel, Sanjuro faces off against Hanbei. They stare each other down. Anticipation hangs in the air. Sanjuro, a deadly warrior who did not want this battle. And Hanbei, a disgraced lord desperate to regain any scrap of dignity. In this calm, meditative moment, No! This shocking climax is dramatic and unbelievable, and despite some apocryphal myths about it being an accident, incredibly intentional. Kurosawa pumped approximately 1 billion fuck liters of stage blood through this pressurized hose with so much force that Tetsuya Nakadai had to struggle to stay on his feet. It's beautiful. It's a literal and metaphorical release of every bit of tension and anger that built up to that moment. And like all great cinematic moments, it was destined to be copied by filmmakers with a lot of enthusiasm and very little restraint. Kenji Masumi, who directed the Lone Wolf and Cub series, would remix Sanjuro's blood jet into dozens of new grotesque configurations. Blood splashing off of a hat. Blood spraying from the neck of a still walking corpse. Bloody mist whistling from a perfect cut in a guy's windpipe. Sanjuro's imitators would show less discretion in their application of this technique, but the goal was the same: to sell the deadly mythology of the samurai and the samurai sword. These are supposed to be battles between super deadly warriors using weapons so sharp that a single strike means it's over. So fewer hits means the ones that land need to feel bigger, and that means bigger blood. This particular aesthetic of gore would endure, cropping up in stories about samurai, ninjas, and deadly swordsmen. Anime would push it to impossible new heights. Samurai Jack would make a kid-friendly reference, swapping out the blood for robot oil. Tarantino would pay tribute in Kill Bill. And video games would get in on that sloppy fun too. Matches in Samurai Showdown end with a prolonged, hissing stream of blood. Tenchu, No More Heroes waved the samurai, and eventually Sekiro would all pay tribute to the beautiful Sanjuro blood fountain. So on an aesthetic level, that's why Sekiro's blood looks like that. It's paying homage to the pulpy sword fighting films that inspired it. But it works so well in Sekiro because the homage isn't just skin deep. Sekiro's gameplay embodies that escalating tension that is so important to Chanbara films. See, in Sekiro, enemies are hard to kill. Most of them are also trained swordsmen, and if you manage to sneak in a glancing blow, it'll just do a bit of damage. If you were to chip away at their health bit by bit, every fight would take a long time. Death by 1,000 cuts. But there is a shortcut. By maintaining consistent pressure and blocking their attacks with perfect timing, you can break their rapidly refilling posture meter, which lets you totally bypass their health bar. So where does all this red go? Right out of a sword hole. It's perfect. Every fight is a high-tension battle where a single mistake can have serious consequences. But you push your skill and luck until you finally create a deadly opportunity. It feels nothing like chipping away the last bit of health from a Dark Souls boss. Every kill feels incredibly decisive, like you stole it away with your legendary sword skills. And every victory deserves a celebration. For what is gaming, if not a celebration of the ideals that, it's a lot of blood. Hey little blood freaks, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Polygon. We do videos on here, and you'll probably like them if you liked this one. They're not usually this bloody, but I can make them that way if you want.